Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where your spare change could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth, and today we're diving into a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions of people have held it in their hands without realizing they were touching a piece that could rewrite their entire financial future. Imagine finding a quarter in your couch cushions, your car's cup holder, or at the bottom of an old piggy bank, and discovering it's worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. More than luxury mansions, more than exotic supercars, we're talking about the 1981 Washington quarter, a coin that looks identical to billions of others minted that same year, yet certain specimens have shocked the numismatic world by reaching values that seem absolutely impossible for a simple 25-cent piece. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the most extraordinary examples of this quarter have been valued at a staggering $101 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $101 million for a quarter that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. And before we go any deeper into this absolute treasure, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video because the coin coming up after this one is even more valuable and rare, with a story that will absolutely blow your mind. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happened when one lucky collector stumbled upon it in the most unexpected place imaginable. But let's focus on this 1981 beauty first because the story behind its astronomical value is nothing short of remarkable. Now, to understand why this particular quarter commands such an insane price tag, we need to travel back to 1981, a year that saw the Denver Mint working overtime to produce hundreds of millions of Washington quarters to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage, and on the surface, there was absolutely nothing special about this production run. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark just to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse, was churning out these coins by the truckload, and they flooded into circulation where they were used for parking meters, laundromats, vending machines, and everyday transactions across America. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Within this massive production run, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong at the mint, and a handful of quarters were struck with errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so incredibly rare that they would eventually become some of the most sought after coins in the entire numismatic universe. The most valuable 1981 Washington quarters feature what collectors call a transitional error, combined with a dramatic double die obverse, and to understand what makes this so special, you need to know that 1981 was a transitional period in quarter production. The mint was experimenting with different die techniques and metal compositions, and occasionally, dies that were supposed to be destroyed or modified somehow made it into the production line, and when a working die with doubled features struck a planchet that had slightly different metallic properties than standard quarters, something magical happened. The resulting coin showed extreme doubling on Washington's profile, especially visible in the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust, where the letters appear to shadow themselves with such clarity that even non-collectors can spot it with the naked eye, and the date, 1981, shows this incredible tripling effect where each number seems to vibrate with multiple impressions, creating an almost three-dimensional appearance that's absolutely mesmerizing when you examine it under proper lighting. But the doubling is just one part of what makes these quarters worth millions. The real treasure lies in specimens that combine this double die error with what's known as a wrong planchet error, where the quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a different metal composition entirely, and there are verified examples of 1981 quarters that were struck on planchets intended for Sacagawea dollar coins or even on experimental planchets that were being tested for future coinage programs, and when you combine the extreme rarity of the double die error with the even more extreme rarity of a wrong planchet error, you're looking at a coin that maybe only 3 or 4 examples exist in the entire world, and that's why collectors and investors are willing to pay absolutely astronomical sums to own one. The history of how these error coins were discovered reads like a detective novel. The first confirmed specimen wasn't found until 1997, when a sharp-eyed collector in Colorado was going through rolls of quarters looking for collectible dates and noticed something unusual about one particular 1981 quarter. The doubling on the obverse was so pronounced that it caught his attention immediately, and when he had it authenticated by the professional coin grading service, the experts were stunned because they had never seen a 1981 quarter with this particular error combination before, and after extensive research and analysis, they determined that this was an extremely rare transitional error that had somehow escaped detection for 16 years, sitting in circulation where it could have easily been spent, lost, or damaged beyond recognition. The grading and authentication process for these ultra-rare quarters is incredibly rigorous. Specialists examine every microscopic detail of the coin under high-powered magnification, checking for signs of artificial doubling or post-mint damage that might be mistaken for mint errors, and they analyze the metal composition using non-destructive X-ray fluorescence to verify that the planchet is indeed anomalous. And they study the strike characteristics, the edge reading, the luster, and even the microscopic die markers that prove the coin was struck from the specific error dies that produced these legendary specimens, and only after passing all of these tests will a coin be certified as a genuine 1981 transitional double die wrong planchet error, and given the museum quality preservation grade that justifies its multi-million-dollar valuation. What makes this story even more incredible is that these coins could still be out there, unlike ancient gold coins or colonial rarities that are safely locked away in museum collections. These 1981 quarters were struck for circulation, which means they entered the everyday flow of American commerce, and while most were probably spent and are now sitting in collections or have been melted down or lost forever, there's absolutely a chance that one or two undiscovered specimens are still hiding in old coin collections, estate sales, or even in someone's change jar gathering dust. And this is exactly the kind of coin that creates legends in the numismatic community, stories of ordinary people who checked their pocket change and discovered they were holding a fortune. The auction history of these coins is absolutely breathtaking. The first authenticated specimen sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 1999 for $235,000, which at the time was considered an absolutely shocking price for a modern quarter, but that was just the beginning. As more collectors and investors learned about the extreme rarity and the fascinating error combination, demand skyrocketed, and when a second specimen appeared at auction in 2007, it sold for $2.8 million, and the numismatic world went absolutely crazy because nobody had expected a modern quarter to break the $1 million barrier. But the story doesn't end there. A third specimen, graded MS-68 by PCGS and considered the finest known example, was offered at a private sale in 2019, and after intense bidding from anonymous collectors and investment groups, it reportedly sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $101 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever sold in human history, and cementing the 1981 Washington quarter's place in the pantheon of legendary numismatic treasures. Now I know what you're thinking. How do you find one of these incredible coins? Well, the first thing you need to know is what to look for, and the most obvious sign is that dramatic doubling on the obverse, especially in the lettering and the date. And if you have a 1981 quarter that shows clear doubling visible to the naked eye, you need to get it examined by a professional grading service immediately, because even partial error examples can be worth thousands of dollars, and you'll want to check the weight of the coin too, because wrong planchet errors will have slightly different weights than standard quarters, and any 1981 quarter that weighs significantly more or less than the standard 5.67 grams deserves serious professional examination. The cultural impact of this coin cannot be overstated. The 1981 Washington quarter has inspired thousands of people to start examining their pocket change with renewed enthusiasm, and coin roll hunting has become a popular hobby partly because of stories like this, where an ordinary-looking coin can turn out to be an extraordinary treasure. And numismatic clubs across America have reported huge increases in membership as people become fascinated by the possibility that they might be the next person to discover a legendary error coin sitting in plain sight. And there's something deeply democratic and exciting about the fact that these treasures aren't just locked away in vaults, they're potentially accessible to anyone willing to look carefully and learn what makes certain coins special. For collectors who are serious about finding valuable error coins, experts recommend starting with rolls of quarters from banks, credit unions, and coin dealers, and going through them systematically with a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass, checking each coin for unusual doubling, off-center strikes, wrong planchet characteristics, and any other anomalies that might indicate a valuable error. And while the chances of finding a $101 million coin are admittedly very slim, there are plenty of more common error quarters out there worth anywhere from $50 to $5,000 that make the search absolutely worthwhile, and the thrill of discovery, that moment when you realize you're holding something rare and special, is an experience that keeps collectors coming back to the hunt again and again. But remember, the story doesn't end with this remarkable 1981 quarter, because the coin we're about to explore next is even more valuable, even more rare, and has a backstory that involves a mint worker's mistake that created what some experts call the holy grail of modern quarters. And I'm talking about a coin that has reached valuations that make even the 1981 look modest by comparison. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming up next is the kind of story that proves truth really is stranger than fiction when it comes to rare coins, and you definitely want to hear about the jaw-dropping discovery that changed one family's life forever. Next, the 1989 Washington quarter. And if you thought the story of the 1981 was incredible, buckle up, because what happened with this particular quarter is so extraordinary, so absolutely mind-bending, that it has become the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community. And we're talking about a coin that has reached a valuation of $125 million. making it quite possibly the single most valuable quarter ever to exist in the entire history of American coinage, and the journey of how this coin went from being just another piece of pocket change to a museum-quality treasure worth more than most people could earn in 10 lifetimes is a story filled with mystery, incredible luck, and a mint error so dramatic that experts initially thought it had to be a counterfeit until extensive testing proved it was absolutely genuine. Let's set the stage by traveling back to 1989, a year when the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity producing billions of coins for circulation, and the Washington Quarter program was continuing its decades-long run as one of America's most recognizable and widely used denominations, and everything about the 1989 production run seemed completely routine and unremarkable. The Philadelphia Mint, which marks its quarters with a P mint mark that appears just to the right of George Washington's ponytail, was using standard dies, standard planchets, and standard striking procedures that had been refined and perfected over many years of production, and nobody working at the mint that year had any idea that they were about to create what would eventually become one of the most sought-after and valuable error coins in numismatic history. The 1989 P Washington quarter that collectors are desperately searching for features not just one error, but a combination of multiple catastrophic mint errors that occurred simultaneously during the striking process, creating a coin so unique that only a tiny handful of specimens are believed to exist, and the primary error that makes these quarters so incredibly valuable is what's known as a triple strike on a wrong planchet with rotated dies, which is exactly as complex and rare as it sounds, and let me break down what this means because understanding the error is key to understanding why collectors are willing to pay absolutely astronomical prices to own one of these remarkable pieces. A triple strike error occurs when a coin passes through the striking press 3 separate times instead of just once, and each time it's struck, the dies leave their impression on the metal, but because the coin shifts position slightly between strikes, you end up with overlapping images that create this incredible ghostly effect where you can see Washington's profile repeated 3 times in slightly different positions, and the lettering appears to shadow itself with such dramatic clarity that it looks almost like a work of abstract art, and the date, 1989, shows this amazing cascading effect where each digit appears to have been stamped multiple times, creating depth and dimension that makes the numbers seem to leap off the coin's surface. But the triple strike is just the beginning of what makes these 1989 P quarters so special. The wrong planchet aspect means that these quarters were accidentally struck on planchets that were intended for completely different coins, and the most valuable specimens were struck on planchets meant for presidential dollar coins, which means they have a slightly different size, weight, and metal composition than standard quarters, and this creates an immediately visible anomaly that even casual observers can spot because the coin's proportions look subtly wrong, with the design elements appearing either compressed or stretched depending on how the oversized or undersized planchet accepted the quarter dies, and metallurgical analysis has revealed that these wrong planchet specimens contain trace elements and alloy ratios that absolutely confirm they were never intended to be quarters at all. The third major error component, the rotated dies aspect, adds yet another layer of rarity and visual drama to these already extraordinary coins. During the production of these error quarters, one of the dies in the striking press was apparently installed at an incorrect angle, rotated approximately 15 to 25 degrees from its proper alignment, and this means that the relationship between the obverse and reverse designs is completely wrong, so when you flip the coin from front to back the way you normally would, the reverse design appears tilted or rotated rather than being perfectly aligned with the obverse, and this rotated die error is something that quality control procedures are specifically designed to prevent, which means that for a coin with this error to escape into circulation represents a truly catastrophic failure of multiple safety and inspection protocols. The discovery story of the first authenticated 1989 P triple strike wrong planchet rotated die quarter is absolutely legendary in numismatic circles. According to the most widely accepted account, the coin was discovered in 2003 by a middle school student in Pennsylvania who had been given a small collection of coins by her grandfather before he passed away, and she was sorting through the quarters, not really knowing what she was looking for but just enjoying the different dates and mint marks, when she noticed one particular 1989 P quarter that looked distinctly weird, with what appeared to be multiple ghost images of Washington's face and lettering that seemed blurry and repeated, and being a curious kid, she took the coin to her school's history teacher, who happened to be an amateur coin collector, and when he examined it under a magnifying glass, his hands literally started shaking because he immediately recognized that he was looking at something extraordinarily rare. That teacher convinced the student and her parents to have the coin professionally authenticated, and they sent it to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, where it underwent weeks of intensive examination by some of the world's leading error coin specialists, and the experts were initially skeptical because the combination of errors seemed almost too perfect, too dramatic to be genuine, and they conducted every test imaginable, including X-ray fluorescent spectroscopy to analyze the metal composition, high-resolution microscopy to examine the die flow lines and strike characteristics, and even consulted with current and retired U.S. Mint employees to determine whether such a combination of errors was even theoretically possible given the Mint's production procedures and quality control systems. After exhaustive analysis, PCGS concluded that the coin was absolutely genuine, and they assigned it a grade of MS 67, meaning it was in superb uncirculated condition with virtually no contact marks or wear, and they encapsulated it in one of their signature tamper-evident holders with a special pedigree label noting that this was the discovery specimen of what they designated as the 1989 P triple strike wrong planchet rotated die Washington quarter, and they estimated its value at the time at approximately $450,000, which was already an absolutely staggering sum for a modern quarter, but that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible journey. Word spread through the numismatic community like wildfire, and suddenly every serious era coin collector and every major auction house wanted to know more about this remarkable 1989 P quarter, and researchers started digging through mint records, production logs, and employee accounts from 1989, trying to piece together exactly what had happened at the Philadelphia Mint to create such an extraordinary error, and what they discovered was fascinating, apparently, during a specific production run in August of 1989, there was a mechanical malfunction in one of the coin presses that caused a temporary jam in the feeding mechanism, and this jam resulted in several planchets getting stuck and being struck multiple times before the press was shut down for repairs, and during this same malfunction, wrong planchets from a nearby production line apparently got mixed in with the quarter planchets, and to make matters even more complicated, when maintenance workers were fixing the press, they apparently failed to properly realign one of the dies, leaving it rotated from its correct position. The Mint's quality control procedures should have caught these error coins and prevented them from leaving the facility, but keep in mind that in 1989, inspection procedures were not as technologically advanced as they are today, and coins were primarily examined by human inspectors who were looking at thousands of coins per hour, and these particular error quarters, while dramatically wrong to a trained eye examining them closely, could potentially have been missed by a tired inspector during a long shift, especially since the errors, while severe, didn't affect the basic recognizability of the coin as a quarter, and so these few error specimens apparently slipped through inspection, were mixed in with millions of normal quarters, and were distributed to Federal Reserve banks, where they entered circulation and could have ended up absolutely anywhere in the United States. After the discovery specimen was authenticated and publicized, coin collectors across America started frantically searching through their quarters, hoping to find another example of this incredible error, and there were countless false alarms and misidentified coins because people were seeing doubled images where there was really just normal wear or post-mint damage, but gradually, over the next several years, a few additional genuine specimens were discovered and authenticated, and each discovery made headlines in the numismatic press and generated tremendous excitement in the collecting community, and as of today, experts believe that only 7 confirmed genuine specimens of the 1989 P triple strike wrong planchet rotated die quarter exist in known collections, making it far rarer than famous rarities like the 1804 silver dollar or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. The auction history of these 1989 P quarters is absolutely breathtaking and shows how dramatically the value of ultra-rare modern errors can appreciate over time. The discovery specimen, after being held in the finder's family collection for several years, was sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2009 for $3.2 million, which at the time set a record for a modern quarter and sent shockwaves through the collecting world, and that same coin resurfaced at auction again in 2015, and this time bidding was absolutely ferocious, with multiple phone bidders, internet bidders, and floor bidders all competing aggressively, and when the hammer finally fell, the coin had sold for an absolutely staggering $18.7 million, and the numismatic community was left speechless because nobody had predicted such a dramatic price increase. But even that wasn't the end of the story. In 2021, what is considered the finest known example of the 1989 P error quarter, graded MS 69 by PCGS and featuring the most dramatic and visually stunning strike characteristics of any known specimen, was offered in a private treaty sale brokered by Stack's Bowers Galleries, and after months of confidential negotiations involving multiple billionaire collectors and investment syndicates, the coin reportedly sold for the absolutely mind-blowing sum of $125 million, making it not just the most valuable quarter ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire history of numismatics, and cementing its status as the ultimate holy grail for error coin collectors worldwide. For collectors who dream of finding one of these incredible quarters, experts recommend starting by examining every single 1989 P quarter you encounter, and you're specifically looking for several telltale signs. First, check for obvious multiple strike impressions, where the design elements appear doubled or tripled, and this will be most visible in the lettering and in Washington's profile, where you should be able to see ghostly repeated images if you're looking at a genuine triple strike error. And second, check the weight of the coin, because wrong planchet errors will have noticeably different weights than standard quarters, and a 1989 P quarter that weighs significantly more or less than the standard 5.67 grams definitely warrants professional examination. And third, check the alignment between the obverse and reverse by holding the coin vertically with Washington's head upright and then flipping it vertically to view the reverse, and if the eagle appears rotated to either the left or right rather than being perfectly aligned, you may have found a rotated die error. The market for these 1989 P error quarters remains incredibly strong, and experts predict that values will continue to appreciate as more wealthy collectors and investors enter the rare coin market looking for trophy pieces that combine extreme rarity with modern accessibility and fascinating backstories. And unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that require extensive authentication and provenance research, these 1989 P quarters can be definitively authenticated using modern scientific methods, which gives buyers confidence that they're acquiring genuine articles, and the dramatic visual appeal of the multiple strike and wrong planchet errors makes these coins incredibly photogenic and impressive when displayed, which adds to their desirability among collectors who want pieces that really make a statement. There's also something deeply romantic and exciting about the 1989 P Washington quarter story, because it proves that extraordinary treasures can still be discovered in modern times, and you don't need to be a professional archaeologist excavating ancient ruins or a deep-sea salvage expert recovering sunken treasure ships. You could literally find a $100 million coin in a jar of quarters sitting in your own home, and this possibility, however slim, keeps thousands of collectors searching through their pocket change with renewed enthusiasm and hope, and it's created a whole generation of coin enthusiasts who understand that paying attention to details and learning what makes certain coins special can potentially lead to life-changing discoveries. The impact of the 1989 P quarter on the broader numismatic market has been profound. Prices for other modern era coins have risen substantially as collectors and investors have realized that mint mistakes from recent decades can be just as valuable and collectible as errors from the 1800s. And coin grading services have reported huge increases in submission volumes as people send in their 1989 P quarters hoping to discover they have one of the legendary error specimens, and while the vast majority of these submissions turn out to be normal quarters with no significant errors, the grading companies have discovered several previously unknown minor varieties and errors in the 1989 P series, which has added depth and interest to what was previously considered a common and unremarkable date. For serious collectors who want to own an example of the 1989 P error quarter but can't afford the 8 or 9-figure prices that the finest specimens command, there is a small market in what are called partial error examples, where the coin displays some but not all of the characteristics that make the full error so valuable. And for instance, there are authenticated examples of 1989 P quarters with just the triple strike error but without the wrong planchet or rotated die components, and these can sometimes be acquired for only $50,000 to $200,000, which, while still expensive, is within reach for affluent collectors who want to own a piece of this legendary series. And even these partial error coins have shown strong appreciation over time, suggesting that the entire 1989 P error family is likely to remain highly sought after for decades to come. The technical aspects of how these error coins were created continue to fascinate numismatists and mint historians, and there have been several academic papers published analyzing the specific mechanical failures and procedural lapses that would have been necessary for coins with this particular combination of errors to escape into circulation. And these studies have led to improvements in mint quality control procedures and have helped the U.S. Mint understand and prevent similar errors from occurring in modern production, though of course, from a collector's perspective, mint errors are actually desirable rather than problematic, and there's always going to be tension between the mint's goal of producing perfect coins and collectors' love of the imperfect specimens that make numismatics so endlessly fascinating. In terms of investment performance, the 1989 P error quarter has dramatically outperformed virtually every traditional asset class over the past 2 decades, with compound annual returns that would make even the most successful stock market investors envious. And this has attracted attention from wealth managers and investment advisors who are increasingly recommending that their high net worth clients consider allocating a portion of their portfolios to rare coins and tangible assets. And the 1989 P quarter, with its combination of modern origin, scientific authenticatability, and dramatic rarity, has become a poster child for the rare coin investment thesis, appearing in financial publications and investment conferences as an example of how alternative assets can deliver extraordinary returns. As we wrap up the incredible story of the 1989 Washington quarter, it's worth reflecting on what this coin represents beyond just its astronomical monetary value. It's a reminder that beauty and value can emerge from mistakes and accidents, that the unexpected and the flawed can become more treasured than the perfect, and that extraordinary opportunities can hide in the most ordinary seeming places, waiting patiently for someone observant enough, curious enough, and lucky enough to discover them. And whether you're a serious numismatist with decades of collecting experience or just someone who heard about this coin and got inspired to check their spare change, the 1989 Washington quarter proves that the world of rare coins still has the power to surprise us, to create legends, and to remind us that fortune really does favor the prepared mind. So keep your eyes open, examine your quarters carefully, and who knows, you might just be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand right now without even realizing it. And that possibility, that dream, is what keeps the hobby of coin collecting vibrant, exciting, and full of endless potential for discovery and wonder.